Data time! Hello, hello, welcome everyone to this very special live stream where I address the controversy, if you can even consider it that. We're going to be talking today about a bunch of comments that I've been getting about using AI in some of my recent videos, even though I've been using it for a while. But first, can we double check? Can everybody hear me? Leave in the comments if you can't hear me. I'm supposed to be able to be heard right now, but if you can't hear me, let me know. And also, before we get any further, to answer anyone's questions, hey, where is the other guy? Well, you just missed him. He was just here. He wanted to be here for the stream, but he couldn't due to existential issues. So it is just going to be me, but we're going to be taking a look at a bunch of different ways of analyzing data. Some are AI, some are not AI, and we'll go from there. Let me just check the comments, make sure I can be heard. The allegations. Is this a live video or a premiere? It is a live video. Be waffle. We can hear you. I can confirm. I can hear you. Yeah, great. I'm glad I can be heard. There's a delay on the comments, so it takes me a while to actually see what you are writing. But yes, this is live right now. So if there are any questions that come up, you can put them into the chat, and I will hopefully get to them in time. So let's just kind of go over what I want to talk about today. Let me show you recently kind of what got this started. Let me change this. Let me change this. Okay. So I put this poll up a couple days ago asking about what people thought about AI, because I've been getting more and more comments about AI from people saying you shouldn't use AI. Some of those are more philosophical or more ethical. But some of them are even just sort of analytical, like it's not good. You shouldn't use that to do this type of analysis. It's much better to use other processes. But then, okay, well, what can you share that with me? What should I use instead? And some of the suggestions are to use the way we used to do AI, or the way we used to do sentiment analysis before AI, which I've done in the past. And then some I just sort of say, well, there must be a better approach. Some say you should use AI, but don't use a general AI chatbot. Use a solution that's tailor-made for sentiment analysis. And then there's more criticism about some of the other AI I use, which is much more open-ended, letting the AI make decisions. So I put this poll up asking for people to provide sentences, example sentences, that we could score. Like, hey, do you think this is a positive sentence, a negative sentence? What does the sentiment of the sentence look like for these different analysis solutions? And then also just kind of polling people, where are people on the whole AI spectrum? I got more than 2,000 votes, which I have never gotten that many votes on any poll in the past. I've gotten like 200 votes, 400 votes. This apparently seems to have a lot of interest. Most people fell in the moderate range of AI as a tool. It's got its use cases, or I'm weary, that should be wary, about AI creeping up into too many aspects of our life. And then a few people were on the positive or negative extremes here, but only a few. So I wanted to just kind of go through and talk about the way in which I got to where I am now and what exactly I'm doing when I say I'm doing AI sentiment analysis, because from some of the comments, I don't know that people really understand what it is that's going on here. Like maybe they understand, or maybe I'm just understanding the suggestions that I'm getting from them to see whether or not what I am doing is matching up with what they're expecting. So let's see. That's what people think. We can hear you. In terms of sentiment analysis from Nick, in terms of sentiment analysis, I've had some success with the BERT-based ML models. Okay. I'll take a look at that. at some point. I don't know if I can, at this point, can set it up here. I've got a couple of other options queued up to test today. Let's see. Roosevelt says, agree with the people who say to use a Taylor model, not a chatbot. Next video when? That depends. I'm working on a couple of things, but it's taken me a while to make videos, so don't expect it this month. Maybe next month. Maybe we'll see. Let's just kind of go through what I've got here. So we're going to talk about three kind of different things. First, we're going to do the sentiment analysis. That's the big one where I think I can show that I think AI is way better than what we had before AI. That one I feel like I have evidence to show. Then we'll talk a little bit about how I'm using it to do stylometric analysis. That's where I leave it open to the AI to kind of decide for me what to do. I'm more open about not doing that. That's more of an experimental choice that I've been trying out. And then I'm going to get into some of the creepier AI usages that you may not know about. Because I'm not just using AI to do analysis, I'm also incorporating it into my video production pipeline to help me make parts of the videos. And some of those are more benign than others, but some of them get into a creepy possibility of what it might mean for the future. And I'm more open to not doing that if people have criticisms about that. So we'll start with the, I think, most tangible examples for AI, which is sentiment analysis. We'll do some tests right here, and we'll take a look, and then we'll get into some of the more abstract later ones. See, did you just pronounce my name? I am Roosevelt. I think I did. I'm not sure how I pronounced it. Yeah, so let's get into it. So I first started doing a sentiment analysis about 1.5 years ago on my Mr. Beast video, and in that video I didn't use AI. I hadn't used really AI for much of anything, certainly not in a video, and I was using the old models, which we're going to take a look at in a second. And someone said, oh, those are terrible. You should use AI. It's much better. And I said, I don't know about this AI thing. But I tried it out, and, well, you'll see. I've been using AI ever since. And then only recently, I've got people in the chat, in the comments saying, you should not use AI. And I was like, well, okay, that seems like we're going back to the old way of doing things. So let's just take a look and see where we are with how things used to be and how things are now. So let's go take a look at what I used to use. This is called the NLTK Vader approach. So you can, if you've got Python, you can just download this module. It's free. It's the NLTK Sentiment Vader import. Can you all see that? I've got the terminal up. I'm hoping it's large enough resolution you can read when I'm writing here. If you can't read it, put it in the comments and I'll try and make it bigger. So I'm using the NLTK Sentiment Vader module in Python, and it's just this class that you can initialize to get the sentiment intensity analyzer. So for our first choice here, wait, let me just check the chat and make sure you all can in fact read it. Looks good. Windows terminal. Wow. Yeah, I'm on a Windows 10 or 11 or something like that. Katya says, I'm sure you'll be addressing this, but I guess the thing is AI is a tool like any other. How you use it is important, and how you interpret and cross-check it. Yeah, we're going to kind of get into a little bit of that. Okay, let's take an example. Just a simple sentence. I love data. Let's use that as our sample. I love data. Now, for most sentiment analysis, we're looking at positivity and negativity. There are other ways you can score sentiment, but those are kind of the ones that are most typically done, and they're the easiest to sort of describe. Is this a positive sentence? Is this a negative sentence? Is it very positive? Is it a little bit positive, a little bit negative, very negative? So you can get the polarity scores from this analyzer. You give it some text, and it comes back with a response. Negative, 0. Neutral, 19%. Positive, 80%. And then the compound is just it's one number to score both. So each of these numbers is on a scale from 0 to 1, except for compound. That's on a scale from -1 to +1. So anything greater than 0 here is positive, and of course anything over 0 here is positive, and this has got no negativity. I like this. This worked well, and we're using not AI, we're just using a much simpler process, and I'll show you how it works here in just a second. But let's find a different example. Let's do one that is a little bit more tricky. Oh, where did I put it here? Oh, I put it somewhere else. Let's pick a different sentence. You don't know what you're talking about. Now, I want to ask y'all, does that sound positive? Does that sound negative? Is it very positive? Is it a little bit negative? Where would you say this sentence falls? You don't know what you're talking about. Trying to see what the sentiment feels like it should be. And I realize that I'm asking for people's feeling as a way to validate things, and some might say, well, you're not here to validate your feelings, but it's called sentiment analysis. So we're kind of trying to use this way to quantify sentiment, how positive, how negative this thing feels. Let's see, I would say negative, it comes off as accusatory. I agree. Let's see what it says. Negative, 0. Neutral, 100%. Positive, 0. Compound, 0. Nothing. It's like it's completely neutral. It doesn't think it's positive. It doesn't think it's negative. What's going on here? Well, this gets into how the Vader system works. It's a lexicon-based way of analyzing the data. So it's actually doing something a bit more rudimentary than you might think. Let me show you what it is doing. I can pull up a bit of the code. So because it's Python, you can actually read through it pretty well. And there's a text file in the Python module that just has a list of a whole bunch of words. And it's trying to score them based on what it thinks it's positive or negative. Here's love. Love is a 3.2. Lovable, 3.0. Lousy, loose, I'm not saying that right. Let's go to hate. Let me find that one. That's a better example. Hate, negative, 2.7. There's a lot of other stuff going on too. I'm oversimplifying this, but see the negative numbers? Yeah, that means it's negative. If it's a positive number, it's good. Harmonize, 1.7. So it's got a list of many, many words, about 7,000 words in the English language. And it just has a lookup table that says this one's positive, this one's negative. It's also got a lot of ways to try and figure out how to change the rate of them. So you've got punctuation, it's looking for punctuation. It's looking at special use cases, so it kind of has some hard-coded knowledge. It can also modify things, so less is a decreaser, totally is an increaser. So what if I said, I totally love data? Oh, you can't see what I'm looking at. Let's go back here. Let's say, so I love data is giving us about an 80% positivity rate. What if I say, I totally love data? That, no, goes down to 70%, and the neutral goes up to 30%. So I'm not sure why, but sometimes the modifiers don't seem to modify correctly, or maybe they're bringing it down. It doesn't seem to make sense. What if I say I kinda, wait, what's a modifier here that decreases it? I kinda like data. I kinda love data. I kinda love data. Now that goes down to 66% as opposed to the original 80%. So it has some knowledge of the words in English that change things. You can also say, I do not love data. And now we get a negativity of 50% and no positivity. So it understands some English, but it's still based on keywords. And if I go back to the one that I already had, you don't know what you're talking about. You, that's a neutral word, don't know what you're talking. Talking is the only kind of big word, and that's not positive or negative inherently. So the system just doesn't know what to do with this sentence. It's invisible to the sentiment analysis because there's no keywords for it to trigger off of. So that's kind of where we're at. What did Katya say? What about I love people who use data badly? Let's find out. I love people, I should copy and paste this, who use data badly. I'm going to leave the lol out for a second. I love people who use data badly. That's a subtle, it sounds positive, but I think we know what you're really trying to get at. And that comes to be 27% negative, 37% positive. Overall, it's on the positive side, according to this particular model. There's another one we can use, which is very similar, called Textblob. And Textblob is basically the same thing. It just has its own separate library. So if you wanted to do that one, you just call this. Let's do I love data. Let's do I love data first, just as a benchmark. So here's I love data, the sentiment there. Polarity 0.5, subjectivity 0.6. So this is a little different. So polarity is kind of compound. So positive numbers are positive, negative numbers are negative. It goes from -1 to +1. Subjectivity, I think it's saying how, I think it's sort of like the inverse of confidence. It's saying if it's very subjective, it means it's not super confident that it knows what it's talking about. But overall, polarity here is still 0.5. And if we say let's do the other one we did first. What was it? You don't know what you're talking about. Let's put that one in. You don't know what you're talking about. Again, 0, 0, nothing. It doesn't know what to do with that sentence. Nothing triggers any of its words that it's got in its lexicon, in the dictionary lookup. I love people who use data badly. Okay, almost like -10% with high subjectivity. So that one did a little bit better with that, because what was the other one here? Sorry, this looks hard to read because it's all this code. I love people who use badly. The compound was a positive 30%. This is saying it's a negative almost 10%. So it is, I would say, a little, that one's more accurate. But it still didn't understand, you know, the insult there where you say you don't know what you're talking about. So let's see. Let me catch up on the comments here. Katya said, I asked that not because I think you're using data badly, but rather it's a combination of both. Yes, Katya, that's exactly right. Okay, Vish says, who decides the values in the text file? The overlords of the wordsmithing gods. I actually don't know. I think it's, you know what? That's a good question. We can figure that out right now. What if I ask AI? No, I'm not going to do that. Let's see if we can figure that out. Let's do NLTK Vader lexicon, where, oh, probably are going to go to AI, where the values are, where are the values defined? I'll phrase it that way. This is going to take me to AI. The polarity, yeah, it's going to give me AI. Text file name, yeah, let's see, natural language toolkit, positive values, using Vader gives you likelihood of sentiment. Yeah, it's not quite telling me. How are the individual words rated? Looking at a blog post now. Using the below code, now mine, you can determine which words the Vader is classifying as, okay. Yeah, it's not really giving me the history of it. So I think the overlords have decided. If I go into, oh, where's the GitHub? No, that's not quite the GitHub. API module index. Release notes contributing to NLTK team. I think these people define it. I'd have to do a little more research, but I believe it's humans. I don't know what their methodology is for classifying them, like who is the authority that says this is 0.1, not 0.12. But I think you're going to find that it's coming from some committee or something like that. This is just me speculating now. Okay. Let me do just a couple more examples. Okay, how's the dictionary been compiled? It's just a text file, and I think you're just doing individual lookups on the words. So as long as you don't use any words that are in that table, those 7,000 words or whatever, as long as you don't use any of them, it just doesn't know what to do. I'm going to give one or two more examples. Here's one that I like. This is similar to the one we just did. It's kind of a subtle insult. What you don't know could fill a library. What do y'all think about that one? Is that one positive? Is that one negative? Do you think we're giving them, what a blessing? How grateful you are? How generous you are? What you don't know could fill a library. I mean, technically, we can't. I would assume all of us could fill a library with what we don't know, right? Like, the number of things we know is probably smaller than the number of things we don't know in human knowledge. Like, if you went to Wikipedia and you went through every single article, how many of them would you say, oh, I didn't know that, versus how many would you say, oh yeah, I knew that. But it's meant to be an insult. I think we've got people saying, yeah, Katya, it's negative. All right, what did Nick say here? What about the NLTK accuracy scores? I guess they would be they would be differed depending on the data set. But do you know what ballpark they'd be? But the accuracy, the NLT accuracy scores, I'm not sure. I think the values we're getting here are coming from the module. It just produces these. Vish, try bad word of your choice or bad words. We might try some of those. Let me go back to this one here. What you don't know could fill a library. That's an insult. And what do we get? -0, neutral 100%, +0, compound 0. Again, it can't find it. None of the words that I used are in its dictionary, so it just says I don't know. We'll try Textblob, same sentence. Again, polarity 0, subjectivity 0. Yeah, it's just not able to pick these up. So these sentences, if you were using them in a larger text and you wanted to get the sentiment analysis of the whole text, you would just come back with, yeah, sorry, we can't rate these sentences. You have to use some actual trigger words that it knows what to do with. See, bad words. What's Vish saying about bad words? Let me try some bad words here. You are an asshole. Let's see. -0, neutral. Yeah, it doesn't know what that word is. It does. It thought. Wait a minute. That. I'm skeptical now. Let's switch back and see if we can find this. I thought for sure. Oh, it has plural but not singular? You got to be kidding me. Wait. Oh, sorry. Let me switch back. You can't see my terminal anymore. Okay, let's change that back. All right, let's pluralize it. There we go. 65. Okay, so there you go. One asshole, it's fine. But 2 or more, now that's negative. Now we're there. I'm surprised that can't. They just didn't singularize it, I guess. Yeah. So it is limited in what it is able to do. So let's see. Nick says the accuracy scores are usually done in a way to test the model. You have a data set of positive, negative, neutral sentences, and you compare that with what the model spits out. Yeah, I think it's more of a formalized way where you have like a series of tests. I think F1 scores are the preferred metric. I have to take a look at F1 scores. Right now, I'm just doing some spot checks in these different data sets to see what we get. I think Nick, was it you? Oh, someone named Nick gave me a couple of ones in the comments. In the poll, I asked for people to give me suggestions for what would be good ones to test, and like nobody gave me any except for a Nick. That might be you. I forget. It was Nick with some other letters after it. So if it's you, you're going to have your words placed here. So this is a sarcastic one that Nick gave. Wow, the bird screech. Oh, are we on the terminal? Can you see what I'm seeing? Yeah. Wow, the bird screeching in the background makes this Zoom call so much better. That's positive, right? It's so much better. But maybe it's sarcasm. Let's try it and see. And -0, neutral 60%, positive 40%. Yeah, a little underwhelming there. But it's sarcasm. Maybe the system just can't do sarcasm. And it's obviously picking up a bunch of the positive words. So maybe that's going to be the issue there. Let's look at Textblob, just for completeness. Polarity, again, 40%. That's a positive, but it's saying it's very subjective. The other one he gave me was, let's do another sarcastic one. My favorite part about AI are how the data centers are raising local electricity bills. Very, very astute criticism, and I'm not going to comment on that. I agree. I am not an AI champion in a universal sense. I just wanted to verify that these are at least accurate, and the deeper ethical questions are harder ones that I don't have data on, and I'm hesitant to comment on things that I don't have like evidence to support. But let's check it out. Let's just see what this comes back as. -0, neutral 80%, positive 20%. So again, sarcasm seems to be lost on this process. For those of you frustrated saying, of course it's not going to understand sarcasm, just wait, because we're gonna move on to some other models here in just a second. Let's try Textblob just to make sure we've got this. Polarity, again, positive 25%. So these models are not really understanding this type of tone. Sarcasm, backhanded compliments, or I guess it's not even a compliment, backhanded insults, that sort of thing. So we'll do one or two more. Bless your heart. That's an absolute insult in the South. Yes, that one is there. Let me get that in just a second. Let me just check something here real quick. Yeah. Oh, Justin. Oh, hello. Yes, I'm skimming over the names. I didn't see you there. Yes, let's try bless your heart. Let's do that. However, I think that is very contextual, because I think people say that to be positive too. Bless your heart. And I'm going to leave the exclamation. Well, let's take the exclamation out. That may mess it up. What do we get? Positivity, 60% overall. Yeah, 40%. It's very positive. I don't think that's enough context, even for a human, to necessarily know what to do with that sentence. Textblob comes back with nothing. Ooh, that's interesting. It didn't pick up any of those words. I guess bless is the only real trigger word there. So yeah, so I was using this in order to do sentiment analysis for my Mr. Beast video ages ago. And then someone said, you should use AI. It's much better at doing sentiment analysis. And I was a little hesitant to do that because I didn't want to have to learn how to do all this new stuff, and AI, is this really going to be a thing? But I tried it, and I'll show you the results we get. So I am just going to a chatbot. We're just at ChatGPT, and I say, can you give me sentiment analysis for I love data? Let's start there. And it says positive, and it gives a score of about 75%. The other ones give about like 60, 80%. Confidence, it's fairly confident. Why? Love is a strong, positive, emotional word. Data is neutral, so the phrase reads enthusiastic, positive overall. That seems great. That was the easy one. Let's go harder. Let's go more challenging, I mean. What you don't, no, the next one was, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's see what that one gives us. Sentiment score, negative. This is negative. Wait, are you able to see that? Is this big enough? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Score, negative 70%, out of 100%. Confidence, it's very confident. Why? It's a direct dismissal insult implying incompetence, which typically carries strong negative sentiment. That's what I would think. Let's go hard. Let's do the more challenging one. What you don't know could fill a library. I should really do each one of these in a new session so that we don't lose the, or so we don't keep the session history, because in reality you wouldn't have that context. Can you give me the sentiment analysis for what you don't know could fill a library? Negative, insulting, condescending, negative 60%. Why? It implies the listener knows very little, a put down. It's more snarky condescending than overtly angry, which is why it's not as negative as a direct insult. Yeah, that sounds, that seems kind of what I would say. Now, is AI just telling me what I want to hear? Maybe, but that's what I want. That's what I wanted it to say. I know that sentence is a negative sentence. Why couldn't the Python module give me that answer? AI is giving it to me. This seems a lot better. That's my opinion. But my opinion based on just the results I'm getting. Let's try some of the harder ones. Let's try the sarcastic one. What about this? You know what? Let's do a new session just so we don't maybe it's getting some context cues from what I've said. What is the sentiment analysis of this? Wow, the bird screeching in the background makes this Zoom call so much better. Let's see if it understands sarcasm. This reads as negative sarcastic. It's saying it's sarcastic. Sentiment score negative. It's negative 65%. It's very confident to think that it knows what it's talking about. The literal words, so much better, are positive, but the context, bird screeching in the background, strongly signals ironic complaint, which flips the sentiment to be negative. Yeah, that's what we were kind of hoping it would say. Maybe I'm prejudicing my expectations because I'm wanting it to work, but that's kind of what we were wanting it to say. Let's do the last, let's do one of the other ones here, the other sarcastic ones. What about this one? My favorite part about AI are how the data centers are raising local electricity bills. What do we get here? This comes across as negative sarcastic, a complaint phrase framed as a praise. Negative score, negative 75%. Criticizing AI's impact, raising local electricity bills. My favorite part, phrasing used ironically. Yeah. Maybe it's getting a little comfortable with what I'm giving it. Maybe it's starting to develop a pattern here. Let's switch to a different AI. Let me just check things. Can use context from other. Vish says ChatGPT can use context from other chats too. By the way, I have started to see that. Although sometimes it has issues. Vish, try Gemini. Well, you read my mind. Let's see. Try not using the thinking model. Less pollution. Well, let's try that real quick here before we switch to Gemini. What is the one? How long to think? Answers right away. We'll do instant. Does that make that a little bit better? I don't know my. Let's do a new chat on instant. What is the sentiment analysis of this? Sentiment overall negative, sarcastic. Estimated score negative 60, negative 80. Favorite part, however, the context follows raising the bills, clearly negative. Mismatch signals sarcasm. So if you'd like, I also break down the token. Provide a Vader-style compound score. Vader was the one we were using originally. Okay. Let's switch to Gemini. Let's just jump to the harder ones. We're using Gemini 3. Yeah, sure, that's fine. What is the sentiment analysis of this? Oh, this is small again. Sorry, let me make that bigger. Yeah, let's do fast. That's the least one. Answers quickly. Sure, I think. I mean, the answers might not be better. On the surface, that sentence looks positive because the phrase "my favorite part." But in reality, it's a textbook example of sarcasm. Detected sentiment negative. While the words are happy, the context is critical. Most people do not enjoy paying higher for utility bills. Therefore, the sentiment is almost certainly disappointed, frustrated, or critical. Sarcastic, ironic, cynical, key drive. Now it's going into really, in a nutshell, if an AI sentiment tool looked only at the word favorite, it might give this as positive score, as we saw in the past. However, a sophisticated model, any human recognizes as a highly negative one. Let's try one of the other ones. What you don't know could fill a library. I'm doing the same chat, I know, but this one is a classic backhanded idiom. While it mentions a library, usually a symbol of knowledge and prestige, the sentiment is sharply negative. Detected sentiment insulting, dismissive, condescending, witty, dry, hostile, contextual nuisance. While 99% of the time this is an insult, there are exceptions. Now it's trying to sort of second guess itself. It could be self-deprecating, wonder, awe. The verdict, if this is what is said to you in debate, the sentiment aggressive while you're analyzing. Okay, can you give me a score? Can you give it a score? I want to get a number out of it as well. To give it a concrete score, you have to look at the polarity. A score of -1 to +1, the score is -85%. So it thinks it's pretty negative. So yeah, whenever I put these types of sentences into the AI, I get pretty compelling arguments. Maybe I'm being pulled to believing it when I shouldn't. You know, like it's just telling me what I want to hear. That's one of the criticisms about using AI. It just tells you what you want to hear, but I kind of want to be told what I want to hear because I want to hear that this is negative because I know this is negative because that's kind of what we, you know, based on sentiment analysis, this is what I would expect to see from this type of sentence because, you know, I'm a human and I, oh, sorry, this is, oh no, that's not it. You know, so right now, I feel like it's way better. We're going to take a look at a few more things in just a second. Let me just catch up on the comments. Vishu, we're looking for the figures. Are you just, I think you got, okay, you got it from the numbers there. All right, Nick. Yes, the BERT models I mentioned are probably worse compared to the modern MLMs. It's more of a late 2010 solution, but they can still pick up on things like sarcasm. Let's switch now to a different one. Sorry, let me just get this going. I'm going to try something that I just recently looked into based on what people have been saying. So people said, you should look for models that are trained to do sentiment analysis. So I did a little bit of research, and the best thing I came up with, not the best thing, this was not an exhaustive search. I wasn't really trying to do tons and tons of stuff, but Google Cloud does have a natural language system. The first one here is the AI. First thing that shows up is AI, but they also have this natural language API, which I don't think, I'm not sure if it's AI. But you can come in here, this looks more like the traditional way of analyzing sentiment with entities and stuff like that. Here I do one called, let me make this bigger, I don't know if you can read this. I love data. And I'm not a robot, thank you. So it does a bunch of things like entities, moderation, categories, a bunch of stuff like that. But sentiment, it comes back with a score of positive 90%. And the magnitude, I think, yeah, this one's a little bit different. I think it's, I forget how magnitude works here, but the score is in the green, positive. I love data. I come in, I say I hate data. That's in the red, negative 80%, negative 90%. So can it handle these situations which are a little bit more negative? You don't know what you're talking about. That was one of the ones. It's a little tricky. Let's see what the sentiment says. Negative 85%. Okay, that's what we were kind of wanting to see. You don't know what you're talking about. Negative score there. What you don't know could fill a library. Let's try that one. And the sentiment here is very neutral. It's like 8%. It is not really one way or the other. It doesn't really pick up anything. Let's do some of the sarcastic ones that we got. Wow, the bird screeching, the Zoom call, you know that one. This one comes back very positive. Wow, the bird screeching makes the Zoom call so much better. It didn't seem to pick up on the sarcasm. And let's do the other one about the electricity bills with AI. My favorite part about AI, about the electricity bills. Sentiment is, again, positive, 60% positive. It's in the green. That's not, that's not quite what we've got there. Not quite what we want there. I did see they have an AI version, which again is back to, I think, just a chatbot. I mean, it looks kind of like Gemini. In fact, is it this? It's not the same as Gemini, is it? I don't think it's the same as Gemini. But you can write a prompt, so it's prompt-based. So I think we're back to basically the same thing. Let's just do a quick check here. What is the sentiment analysis for this text? That's the Zoom call one. We'll see what it comes back with here. A little bit slower. Negative, specifically expressing annoyance, frustration. While the literal words, wow, so much better, are typically positive, this statement is heavily sarcastic. So it seems to be picking up on the same things that the other AIs did, but this makes sense. This is an AI. So I think maybe it's a little bit better. Oh, what's the score? Let's get that one. What is the score for this one? Yeah, so it's doing analysis like a book report, not like a getting analysis, like I'm wanting. When I do this for my videos, I actually ask it to return this information as a JSON file with the values embedded in it, and then what I do is I have a Python script that calls the AI for every section of code or section of text. Based on these older or simpler tools look at individual words. Yes, typical score would be around, so it's giving me what Vader should give it, Vader and Textblob, 40 to 60% positive. Okay, advanced AI, contextual models. BERT, I think this is what you were talking about. Modern machine learning modules understand context, tone, and sarcasm. Typical score around 80 to 95% negative. Polarity score mapped on negative, okay, that's just saying -1, it'd be negative 60 to 80%. Based on actual human sentiment, if we assign a true polarity score on how human interprets it, I don't know how it knows what a human would interpret it, it just seems like it's got its own model. It would be, negative 70%, negative 100%. Strongly negative, annoyed. So I think it's trying, or at least it's claiming to try to know what BERT would say. And then the Vader models, I think, were kind of similar to this. So I'd be a little hesitant just taking its word for Vader or Textblob, because I can just run Vader on my own. BERT, I would have to look that up if I wasn't, since I haven't used that, but Nick was suggesting we should use that. So, yeah, let's see what we've got. Oh, we've got a lot in the chat while I looked away. Clearly, so a YouTuber handle that is not taken. Clearly, the LLM are way better. Now the question is, what about NN-based tools that aren't LLMs? I'm unfamiliar with that one. Katya says, I agree with Nick. It would be worth verifying with a whole bunch of sentences that you know objectively have been rated positive or negative. Yeah, a whole bunch of them. That's maybe the direction to go, is to kind of build my own benchmark. Although I bet someone else has already done this. I should probably look into that. Maybe statements from one of the vids you've analyzed. Yeah, we could look into that. Only just hopped in the stream, but the way I see it, more classical sentiment analysis is more precise and reproducible. The polarity and stuff mean different things, but maybe less accurate for misleading sentences, whereas AIs can understand the context of a sentence better, but there is no real difference between AI saying a polarity of 0.6 and 0.7. Yeah, so the caveats with the AI are, we're just looking at sentences. When you expand this to be a whole script, it becomes a little bit more tricky, because you can't typically send the whole thing to the AI at once. You have to chop it up into pieces, and how you chop it up can give you different results. And also the AI is just not deterministic. So you could ask it the same question multiple times and you'll get different answers. So when I do this, I usually try to run it a few times just to make sure that it doesn't change that much. Like the polarity, like you're saying, might change from a 0.6 to a 0.7, but it's not going to change from a 0.6 to a -1 or something like that. So there is some noise. You can throttle that a little bit with temperature. So AIs have a temperature gauge where you can say how a high temperature means high randomness in the response, whereas a low temperature means make it as deterministic as possible. So I set the temperature to 0 when I'm running this. But even then, temperature 0 still isn't 100% deterministic. So you do get lower quality information because you've got this sort of randomness. But my feeling is the amount, which would you rather have, a deterministic inaccurate answer or an answer that's able to capture a lot more quality, but maybe changes from one instance to the other? I think it's still better. That was my feeling when I switched over from the old models to the AI models. So, but yes, those are the big caveats with the AI. They're not 100% deterministic. And then also when you aggregate them over larger text, which is what I'm doing, the way you chunk them can change things. Like if you have a text that's got like 4 paragraphs and you send each paragraph as a separate prompt, then you have to sum them up. But if you then change it to say, no, send the whole thing as one request, all 4 paragraphs at once, then you get a different answer. So how do you sum up all of these polarities? How do you take the average if you want to say, give me the overall sentiment of this speech, even though you've chopped it into smaller pieces? That is another thing that is not an exact science, at least not the way that I've understood it. So there are caveats still. Whereas if you use the old model, the Vader Textblob, they're just counting words. So I don't think it matters how big or how small the payload is that you're sending it. It's just gonna count, I think. Because it's not going to have any understanding of context from one sentence to the next. I think it understands within one sentence how to handle the not. This is not good, this is really good, this is kind of good. It understands that, but I don't think you can't set up a punchline in a sentence later on that's based on the context given previously. Whereas in the AI, it does sort of know how to do all that. Okay, let's see, actual misleading sentences. Let's go to Hopper. Vertex AI is just the enterprise interface to Gemini models. That's kind of what I figured, like how Google AI Studio is the developer interface to Gemini, and the main Gemini website is the layperson interface to Gemini. That's kind of what I figured. Nick says, wait, where do we go here? I lost it. And how do you solve the problem with the randomness baked into LLMs? I don't. I know that you can adjust that. Do you just keep that on the default values? Yeah, the temperature is the only thing that I've used to try and keep that consistent. Also try and keep my chunk size the same. From video to video, I don't change the chunk size. I say, here's how many words I send in one payload, and then here's the size of the next one. Just try to be consistent. Nick says, by the way, there are already human-coded sentiment analysis data sets, so you can use that. Human-coded sentiment data sets. Is that what we're talking about with Vader? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that, but you assume you're talking about this stuff here. Here's a human-curated data set. Here are all the words. Or you're saying there's a data set of like sentence, like larger text where there's a score given for it. All right, Vish says, which model do you use for the vids? I built my pipeline 1.5 years ago, and so I'm using ChatGPT Turbo 3.5, which is old. We were using 5 here just a second ago. I need to update that, but again, I'm worried if I change it, it's gonna, like, am I gonna get a completely different set of results? I should update it. I think I may do that for the next video. I haven't changed it because I built it once and I just run it. You know, I'm just trying to be consistent with it for all my videos. But yeah, it's using an old ChatGPT model. Let's see what Hopper says. More deterministic. Most APIs use other models for stuff like moderation that the temperature doesn't affect. So a temperature of 0 still doesn't make them fully deterministic. You're absolutely right. So yeah, it's a caveat. Katya says, no, to test the accuracy of the positive and negative and neutral. Yes, that you can, so that you can tell if the accuracy is in line with what real humans think. I mean, we kind of did that here as a spot check. Now, maybe what should happen is I could build sort of a unit test where I have like 20 different text excerpts. And I don't know, the best way is to get validation. Do I just ask a whole bunch of humans, hey, score this on a scale of -1 to +1, what you think the sentiment is, and then see how well each of the models matches that. That may be the way to do that. Hopper says, I would personally recommend using Gemini because its context window is much larger, so you could possibly shove the entire script in there at once. I've been playing around with putting more context in, so this is the other trade-off is, what if I just want to send the whole script in one go? What is the token density with the AI? Like, I've heard this is an issue where if you give it too much stuff, it loses or it doesn't lose context, but it loses its ability to really give you high quality results. Where if you give it small portions, it gives you high quality results, but it loses context of the big picture. I've been playing around with this thing. I did this with ChatGPT where it said, oh, put all of the scripts into a zip file, upload it, and then I can run through all of them. That's a little bit tricky. I'll show you, the next thing we're going to get to is how I've handled the stylometric analysis, which is even more loosey-goosey. But it's also, it is a bigger exercise of how to try and aggregate data across really big data sets where you can't send the whole thing all at once. So the context window is bigger. So the other issue I'll mention with Gemini, well, at least I don't know if it's still true, but I tried this a couple of years ago, and I tried Gemini, and maybe I tried Claude, and they wouldn't process political text. So I did my Mr. Beast video, I switched to AI, then the elections came, and I wanted to compare political speech, the inauguration speech of Biden versus Trump, the speeches of Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. I wanted to just take political speeches, wasn't trying to make a political stance, but some AIs would just reject the prompt and say, I can't analyze this text, it's political. So, but ChatGPT didn't have that restriction. So again, I continued with that one. But maybe it's changed now. I haven't looked at it in a while, so maybe I should go back and investigate the other options that are out there. Let's see, let me just catch up on the comments here, Katya. That's the human-coded sentiment analysis data sets that Nick mentioned. Nick says, I've had this exact same problem, but in my case, I was doing a sentiment analysis of news articles, so it usually fit into the 512 token limit. Vish says, DeepSeek, I haven't looked into that. Let's see, or Grok, yeah, did I try Grok? Grok would probably let me do political statements. Nick says, my solution was lazy, I just used truncation. Oh. Yeah, I try and just chunk them through and then aggregate the results. Let's get into that, because I also use AI, not just for sentiment analysis, but for some other things that people were even less interested in, which was doing general stylometric analysis on these texts. So that's a new thing that I have started doing in the last couple of videos, where I ask the AI for advice, sort of. I'm asking it to tell me what it thinks about this particular topic or this particular speaker in a more open-ended way. So what I did in the last video, the game theory video, it was I took scripts from 2 different speakers, and they were small enough that I think I could fit them all within one prompt, and I say, compare these 2. I gave you 4 scripts from speaker A, 4 from speaker B, compare them and tell me if they're the same speaker or a different speaker. So there I'm really trusting the AI to say, tell me what you think, rather than trying to get these specific numbers scored and then aggregating it myself and processing those numbers to do my own analysis. And it came back and it gave what I thought was rather insightful, and it seemed to match what I later discovered was true. So then in my last video, the jet lag video, I went even more into that. And I had like 2 minutes of just the AI doing this very generic analysis, where I said, tell me things about these speakers that I don't know. And I went through several scripts, and in order to do the analysis, I had to analyze each script as its own prompt. It created an output, a summary of each script, and then I concatenated all those scripts, or all those reports, into one bigger prompt, and then it gave me an overall output. So I'll show you what that is. This is actually up on the web, although I've got it here. Let me switch over. Where are we? Yeah, this is on my local, but you should be able to, let's see. If you go to my latest video, it should be in the link. I'm just going to go there actually to just see. Okay, no, pause. Here, data time, jet lag. So I tried to put a bunch of the data that I got for this video. I tried to put it all, or not all, but a lot of it online. If you scroll to the bottom, you got episodes. So here's what I did with the AI. Let me make this bigger. So the thing I tried to do was I gave it 1 episode, and I said, here's a transcript of a reality show. I give it some context about what it's looking at. I say, give me a summary of their speaking style, where in the world they learned English, their region, intellectual tendencies, emotional tendencies, strategy, this is for a game show, and if there's a relationship or power dynamics, because one of the guys was the leader of the others. And so what it did was it gave me this breakdown. Here each speaker in the episode. So this transcript was actually annotated in a way that I could extract each individual person. And so it gave me a summary, it gave me the location of where they're from. This worked out, I think, reasonably well. Like these guys are all from North America. And so that's one thing you can kind of verify. In one episode, or one season, they had someone from Ireland, and it says, this is a non-native North American English speaker, possibly from Europe, due to unfamiliarity with US-specific references and some phrasing. So this guy was from Ireland. They were probably having a conversation about, why do you say that in America you say it this way, but in Ireland we say it that way. Another episode with this guy says North American. Nope, that's wrong. So this episode, it says non-American native English speaker, possibly UK, Ireland, or Australia, based on I'm not American, though. So he actually said I'm not American in the transcript. And so the AI says, oh, okay, well then I'm going to assume you're not American. So that's how that comes about. And then also, here's the sentiment analysis that we plotted. So we go through all of the different speakers, and then once I get all of these reports, then I have another process that grabs all of those reports and then creates one overall report, and that was huge. The information that was provided was incredibly vast, and I ended up trimming it down quite a bit, but I spent like 2 minutes on it. So I asked it to give me speaker by speaker analysis. So here's this first speaker. It gives me all different things, basically aggregating all the stuff. Region he's from, probably North American. Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, these guys are all from North America. And then I learned some stuff about their intellectual tendencies. I mean, there's a huge report here. Here's a third character. Those are the three main guys, the narrator, and then overall show level analysis. And I go through, it gave me a bunch of stuff. And then I ran it again with a slightly different prompt, and it gave me a different output. So I went through and parsed through a bunch of this and tried to build the stuff that seemed more concise, but it was still like over 2 minutes long. And I think a lot of people complained about that, and I think that was that's a good experiment. Hey, let's try this out and see what we get. And I think that's important. I philosophically think I want to ask the AI things like, are you able to give me anything that I wouldn't necessarily understand or wouldn't necessarily see? I'm sorry, I was looking at a time segment. Okay, this is explanation, excerpts. No, wait, we're in a different spot. I'm looking around. What can you see now? Oh, we're back on here. Sorry, I was in the middle of talking and I was going to show you something and then it went away. This format's not the greatest. So for the overall one, I did say something like, please provide the following for every speaker. Finally, provide an overall analysis of the show, focusing on anything you see that is interesting or odd correlations that a person might overlook. So this is where I'm really leaning on it for advice. You tell me, AI, what you think based on all of this analysis that you've done. And so some people got very wary of that. Like, why are you asking the AI, to do that? You should do the analysis. But it's like, well, I want to see what it thinks. Maybe there's something there that I didn't quite see. And it did come up with some things that were kind of interesting. Like, I wasn't sure about that. So I thought it was an interesting experiment. I spent too much time on it. I'll probably not spend as much time on it in the future, but I still like the idea. Let's go through, let's see, Hopper says, it's a fair point. I guess that the benefit of the LM having the full context would outweigh the negative of reduced intelligence. Would definitely need some experimenting though. Katya, it got Tom Scott wrong on a couple of episodes. Hi from the UK. Yes, let's look at Tom Scott. That was a good example actually. It got Tom right a bunch of times though. So to talk about what we're saying here. So in one episode, one season, we had an Irish guy in one season, and we had a British guy, Tom Scott, in another one. Here, this one. So Tom, whoa, sorry if you hear that. Where's Tom? Tom, where are you? Oh, it's on the back. Let me make this a little smaller. Sorry, I'm moving all around here. Let me find it. Okay, so here, Tom, location, British UK based on accent. Don't know how it knows accent based on script. Vocabulary and references. So it does a pretty good job for this episode, depending on what he says. Oh, why is it changing the... Hopefully you can read that. Location, North America. Nope, that's wrong. So, yeah. Let's try episode 3. Oh, it changes it again. Likely British, UK, based on vocabulary, phrasing, and references. And it goes on to explain that a little bit better. He makes a joke, I think, in one of them. Likely UK, British idioms, accent implied by phrasing. Okay, maybe there's a way to look at a person's accent based on the words they use written down. References to Q, that's a Britishism. Duff Challenge, I don't know that reference. The British folks in the comments can clarify what that is. But it is picking up that he's British in many of the episodes. I think it just depends on what he says. If he doesn't say too much, I don't think it's going to work necessarily as well. Where's Tom here? Tom. United Kingdom, British English, possibly with a regional accent. Yeah, so... I'm not sure how it's determining a lot of that, but sometimes they talk about themselves, and then that picks up on it. Like in one season, Toby is a guest, and she's from New Zealand, and she says something about being from New Zealand in the transcript, and the AI picks up on that and says, "Oh, I think she's from New Zealand." Why? Because she said so. So it is understanding the context in a lot of these situations in a way that I can confirm, because we know where these people are from, and so the AI is able to sort of glean a bit on that. Let's see. Hopper says, one thing I wondered when watching the video was whether the AI would have already been familiar with jet lag, or at the very least, some of the personalities on it, and if that would have biased it. This was an issue for the game theory video. I gave it some transcripts. I said, this is Matt and Tom. In this case, this was Matthew Patrick, who created the game theory channel, and also Tom Robinson, who took over. And it read the transcripts and said, oh, yes, this looks like Matthew Patrick and Tom Scott. Like, no. And it asks me, hey, when I analyze this, do you want me to analyze it knowing what I already know about what these people have said, or should I go in blind? Now, I don't know if we can trust that or not. Is that is the AI just saying what I want to hear, or is it actually going to do it? So you're right. That is a little bit difficult, because it does already have context about these famous people. Are you really truly analyzing this text as you would a person going in without any biases? This is like trying to get a jury pool for a case that's super famous and everybody already knows the defendant. And you're like, well, can you just partition your mind to forget about that? I don't know. That is a concern that I've had, especially with some of these. In this case, I don't tell them the full name of the person, but in the transcript they do say jet lag, so it probably, yeah, it might already know some of this stuff. So that's a hard one to control for. I'd have to find someone who's not famous, or find a document that's not published on the internet, so the AI doesn't know about it, and then give that to the AI and say, hey, do you know what this is? And then have it try and figure it out. In the past, I've seen it also have trouble where I say, hey, do you know this thing? And it gets it completely wrong. I'm like, okay, you don't know, you're not familiar with it. But yeah, having familiarity is an interesting issue to try and control for. I don't have a good answer for that. Let's see, Katya. Yeah, sometimes it got Tom right, sometimes not. It means it's a stupid challenge not able to be completed. Oh, a duff challenge. Oh, like it's daft? It's duff challenge. Okay. Maybe the flower challenge. Okay. So, yeah, so that was the other thing that I was going to bring up, because people made comments like, why did you just have the AI do this very long, open-ended analysis? You shouldn't let it decide things for you. You should check yourself. I like experimenting with it. Maybe it was a little too much. Next video, I probably won't do so much of that. I may give it more targeted prompts for analysis. So yeah, so that is the other thing, is how do you use AI to analyze a big text and find patterns or find larger things when it's too much to analyze in one context window. So I've been experimenting with that. I'm more okay if people like that. This isn't very valuable. I'm like, okay, just wanted to try and see. The last thing I want to show is the kind of the creepier stuff, where I'm using AI to help me make the videos. So this isn't about analyzing data. It's, hey, I got to make this video. Can I use AI to help me do that? And there's a couple of less creepy ways and a couple of more creepy ways to do that. Let me switch over here. Hold on here. Katya says, you should put the text in a Word or text document. I've had AI look at my CV, for example, via a Word document. Yeah, you can definitely do things like that. Okay, so I'm going to switch over now to, what's the best way to do this? All right, let me transition I'm going to show you my desktop now, which shows way too much, and it's going to be a little bit tricky. Let's switch over. Okay, this is gonna look crazy for a second. Well, there's so many of me. Okay, so for this what I did was I wanted to produce, well, I'll just show it to you. I wanted to produce some shots for my video where I use a lot of drone shots in the background. Let's see, are you able to see this? Yes, you should be able to see this. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Well, that's fine. So I have a shot where I just need a few seconds where I say, here are all the other channels that I'm using to do the term frequency inverse document frequency. I'm using other channels and analyzing their words and comparing it to the channel we're looking at to find the differences, to say this channel uses a lot of unique words that these other channels aren't using. But I just need a few seconds of like this filler shot. The drone is a real shot. I shot that last summer in Alaska, so that's not AI or anything like that. Are you able to see this? I think you are. I'm just always paranoid that I'm on the different frame than what. Whoa, yes, I think you can see it. So in order to do this, this is kind of like if you use Photoshop, there's all these layers. You may not be able to read them, but there's all these layers down here that have to be created, and that's kind of a pain. So instead of going through and like clicking and copying and typing in words and stuff, I took a bunch of these words, this list of words, channel names, and I went into ChatGPT, and I had it look at the code and have it generate for me a procedure to do this. So a little bit of context here. So I'm using Adobe After Effects here, and it has a JavaScript interface. So you can give it some JavaScript code, and there's an API to generate all of these layers and create all these keyframes and assets and things like that. And so what I did was I said, hey, here's a list of names. I want you to create a camera that flies forward through this space, and I want you to have the letters reveal themselves, and it generated all this code. And then I put it into my project here, and it did a pretty good job. And then I went in and manually tweaked it. So it did like 80% of the work, and I just did the last little bit to make it look like I wanted it to look. And you end up getting, you know, this is what I was hoping to get. I should have spaced it out a little bit better, but this is just a few seconds of background reel. Oh no, it's stuck. It's just a background shot that I use while I'm talking about this stuff. So, is that video generated AI? I gave it a prompt. It gave me code. I ran the code. I put it into an After Effects project and then rendered it out. Although I did actually manually, you know, change it and whatnot. But technically, is that helping me generate video? I don't know. I'm interested to hear what people think. That one's not the creepy one. The next one is the more creepy one. But let me just catch up on the comments here. When you upload a docx, PDF, or similar document to the AI, there's actually an intermediate layer that extracts the raw text from it and sends that to the AI. So it doesn't really make a difference. It actually doesn't include formatting either. So if you highlight some text and then ask it about the highlighted text, it'll get very confused. Sounds like you're talking about how to use text documents to do this. Yeah. So for this, I think I'm technically using AI in order to generate video, but you know, it's a very indirect sort of thing. But I'm going to move on now to the creepier one, which is the real generative AI, the thing that people like say you shouldn't do this. And it was for a video with some historical information. Let me get that set up. Okay. So I made a video in Alaska where I went to the longest drivable tunnel in America. What does Katya say? Be fun to take these comments and see what it makes of us commenters. Yeah, I thought about actually taking taking the comments, the negative comments about AI, and then sending it to the AI to do sentiment analysis, just to see, like, we'll see, this is what it says. I thought using AI to generate code was one of the most widely accepted uses of AI. Yeah, that AI does a pretty good job making code. Okay, but what if I want to generate actual video with AI? Let me switch back. So I went to Alaska, and I went to the longest drivable tunnel in Alaska, and I made a video about it and wanted to talk about the history of it. And during the history of it, or the parts of the video where I talk about the history, I wanted to use some stock historical footage. I shouldn't say stock footage, historical photos. This is where it was built. This is like the 1940s when it was built. And so I got this photo, and I got, this one. This is the resolution I got from some historical website. It's got this photo. And I was like, this photo looks terrible. And I want to blow this up to be a short on YouTube. I want it to be 4K. So I said, well, what if I just up-res it, like using AI? Is that a thing I can do? I've heard that. So I played around, and I have a subscription to Adobe because of After Effects and everything else. And they have a thing called Firefly, and they have a way of generating images. So it generated this. Let me make these bigger so you can see them. So that's the original, which doesn't look so great. And this is the new one that came out. So the color's all weird, and you can't see the guy's face. But here in this one, you can see their faces better. But this one, this doesn't look like a human face. But it kind of doesn't matter, just a background. This face looks a little smushed. This face looks pretty good. This face here that's based on that face. So yeah, the AI is taking very little information and generating information that doesn't exist on a historical photo. So these are real people, and here we're making it better, making it clearer, I'll say that. Also, it changed the aspect ratio. So see the tunnel, the top of the tunnel is not visible here, but I wanted this to be a vertical video. So it just generated this tunnel. And I don't know if that's too creepy or not. But if you think that's not great, you'll hate what I did next. Because when I was there looking at the generate photo, there's also generate video from a photo. And I was like, well, what if I tried doing that? And that is a more creepy solution. I'm going to show that to you right now. So from that one still photo, it generates this video of these men walking in the tunnel. There's no actual walking footage of them. I hate these resizes. No, go back. Oh, just go right there. There we go. Here's the photo. It's this small, but here's the photo we start with. Here's the video we get. And I put that in my YouTube video with a little disclaimer. It says something like AI generated video based on historical photo. And I just need a few seconds of it. I'm not actually, this is just in the background while I'm talking about the history. But it's pretty good, but also pretty scary. So I don't know about this. Then I didn't stop there. I said, well, we got these other photos, right? I can see these guys are walking, but I can't see them actually walking. Can you make this? Can you make these guys look like they're actually walking, like in real life? And it said, okay, here's these guys shaking hands. So it just generates this. And this was a higher quality image to start with, and so it was a better video in general. This is a pretty high quality, high resolution video. I'll let you decide if it's good quality or not. But there's also some weird stuff it did too. Like it got confused. Actually, let's go to that one. It's based on this image here. So I said crop this to make it a vertical video and make it look like they're walking. So just a few seconds. And then they're back. Where's the other one? So this is the first one it did. This was really weird. And now they all applaud. And then they walk into the sunset together. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So this is the first attempt. I don't know what, is he whispering to his helmet? And then they applaud and they walk away. So I didn't use that one. That one's a little too off. But yeah, I just went through and I just found a bunch of these ones. So this is a video of a car driving onto the train. That's what I was trying to describe. Because in the olden days, the tunnel wasn't drivable. You had to drive your car onto a train. And so I had some stock footage like that of a car. And then I said, make this car drive on the train. And now it does. And I just need a few seconds of it in order to, just cut it into the video. But it's got a bunch of these videos. Again, a video based on a photo. I didn't have any video of any of this stuff. I just had a picture of a train. I said, make the train move. This one's pretty simple. Make the train move, and it's kind of zooming out a little bit. This one was interesting. The photo that this is based on, that's all I had. And I said, make the VW bus move forward. And it did this thing where it crashed through its, I guess it's a spare tire on the front. And so it very much did not do what I wanted it to do, but it didn't matter. I just cut it out. So the first part's all garbage. But from here on, in the video, I just used the last second or two. And so I start playing from here, and you just see a car driving on a train. So, kind of scary, but also really helpful for telling the story that I was trying to tell with the creation of this railroad. Let's see what comments I've gotten on that. I don't have a huge issue with that as long as you have the rights to the original photo, either Creative or Commons or whatever. I mean, I think they're public domain at this point. They're on some historical website that is just trying to document how this tunnel was being made. Classically unsubscribed, originally subbed for hard data analysis, disappointed with the use of AI. So that's where I'm trying to get at here. The sentiment that I've gotten is basically as soon as you say AI or touch AI or use AI for anything, it's like poison now. It's tainted goods. You can't look at the video because there's an AI that's involved with it. I don't know if you're this is classic thief who's saying unsubscribed, originally subbed for the hard data analysis, disappointed with the use of AI. I assume that's for AI data analysis, or maybe they're referring to the historical videos that I generated from pictures. Kati says, it's a bit creepy, but also kind of cool from a technical perspective. Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of an odd thing because you could definitely abuse this power if I wanted to take a photo of Joseph Stalin and Winston Churchill and make them do things that they never actually did. And you could make all kinds of lies about stuff. So the ability to do bad things exists. I don't think I'm doing bad stuff, although there was one comment on that video saying, no, you're changing history. So I'm not sure what the right answer is there. This is now a philosophical question. There's not a data question. I think it's pretty clear those videos look pretty good. I mean, if I showed them to you but didn't tell you that they were AI generated, would you be able to tell? They're very subtle background B-roll. We call them B-roll or filler shots for the video. I'm not having them like talk to camera or something like that. So I think from a quality standpoint, very acceptable. From a philosophical, ethical standpoint, I don't have the right answers to that. And I'm open to hear what others say. If the whole world says this is really, really bad, you shouldn't ever do this, even if your intentions are good, then I would change my direction. But it does really help make videos look better. If I didn't have that, I would just use the still frame and I would just do like a pan. You'd see a still image of a person walking, well, not walking, but mid stance, and then you just see a pan go across, just to give it some motion. But now you can see them actually walking, maybe how they actually walked. It's interpretive, but not that much. I mean, I think they're walking. I think that's the end of what I had to present. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to put them into the comment section before we wrap up here. Nick says, I never had a problem with the concept of generative AI, but it's a bit disappointing that the models are often trained on stolen data. Yeah, I don't know what the future of that's going to be. Because if I'm an artist and I look at your photo that's personal that you've put on the web, so it's public, but it's private. I'm not sure. It's something you have the rights to, but you've shared. And I look at it, and then I paint my own painting that's similar but not the same as yours. Am I stealing from you? I'm stealing the idea from you, the inspiration, the concept. Isn't that kind of what the AI is doing? It's regenerating a new thing inspired by what it has seen? Or am I not understanding how inspiration works? Maybe that's like, no, that's copying. So I don't know what the right answer for that is either. And then that goes for using the sentiment analysis models too. It's reading the internet to understand how words work in order to build sentiment models, in order to give me a score of whether or not this particular sentence is positive or negative. Hopper says, I have absolutely no problem with using it to edit your own images as long as you're not doing it to try and replicate someone else's style, but I don't feel the same way when it's other people's. Katya says, maybe it's worth mixing things up, finding other related topics that really does involve hard data analysis alongside some of the AI sentiment stuff. Well, in the video that I did, the last video I did, the first half of the video, there's no sentiment analysis. And there's no AI. It's all calculating words and word counts and stuff like that. Then we get into AI sentiment analysis, and then we get into the AI picking funny quotes. That was another experiment. Does the AI understand humor? Picked a bunch of quotes from Ben from this TV show. And then the last thing was, okay, what's the most abstract thing we can get the AI to do? Let's just have it do a general analysis on everything. So the sentiment analysis, I do feel like, is more, maybe hard data is not the right word, but it is, I think, from what I've seen, just now, seems pretty good. Certainly better than what the hard data would have been before AI, using the Vader model or the NLTK, Textblob, the lexicon-based ones. Those seem pretty terrible. And the new ones seem a lot better, and it seems like you can infer quite a bit from it. And then after that, the stuff I did after that are more fun. But if there are other data analysis that can be done that are more mathematical, I'm open to seeing that. But in the old videos, I would count things like how many times they say the word the, what are the most proper nouns they use. They're interesting a little bit, but I think the sentiment analysis really gives you a lot more to go off of. And if you can use AI to do stylometric analysis, to do comparison between writing styles, I think that's very powerful too. One video I'm considering is trying to reproduce how the Unabomber was captured. For those of you who don't know, in the 90s, the Unabomber was captured, one of the most notorious bombers, and he was captured based on his writing style. He wrote a manifesto, and the FBI got it published, and his sister-in-law read it and said, this sounds like my brother-in-law. I have letters from him. And they compared the writing sample of letters from Ted Kaczynski to the writing sample of this suspect, and they said, oh, this looks like this could be the same guy. And that was done not with AI, it was done with humans. I don't know if they even had a computer analyze it at that time, but what if you could do that today with AI? I've also wondered, could you use AI to try and find out if people are plagiarizing each other, doing stylometric analysis? Here's writing sample 1, here's writing sample 2. Do you think they're the same writer? I think that's interesting, but it is subjective. But any analysis like this is subjective. So you're going to have to kind of go into the realm of subjectivity in order to get some of this information. Katya says, I have one for you, but it's probably not the place for it. Well, you can feel free to comment or send me an email. Okay, where are we at? We're like an hour and a half. Okay, I think that's all that I really have for us today. Those are the main things. If people have comments after this live stream, is there a comment below? But if anyone says don't use AI for sentiment analysis, please tell me what the other thing is that's better. Because I keep hearing people say, well, there must be something better. And then if I press them, they usually say, well, we used to do it the old way before AI. We did sentiment analysis that way. So those, okay, if you give me an actual example, I can test it. Katya says, I have an idea that I've been noodling, though I could maybe do it myself given the time. Okay, well, feel free to comment if you'd like. But I think that's going to be it for this stream. If you have any more comments about AI, the comment section is always open. But I will probably press you with more questions like, could you be more specific? Can you give me more information? Can you give me an example? Can I test this? If I can test it, then now I'm more interested in entertaining this alternative. But if it's just, there's got to be something better, sure, okay. So with that, I have only one thing left to say, and that's, it's data time! Take care.